Lowkey, you are a musician, a journalist, and also an activist. How do you combine these roles?
Well, they came in a trajectory that began with a musician, and the musician then morphed into political activism when I saw the power of music to move people and mobilize people towards a specific objective politically. And then journalism came out of that when I realized that there was things happening within our society which were not being properly investigated by the existing well-trained, well-tamed corporate media that we have in England. So therefore those things kind of have a symbiotic relationship with each other, because if I do something as a musician, it is always politically active now. But at the same time, all of that also interacts with journalism because it increases the amount of people that know who you are, and can therefore, over 15 years or so that I've done this, you build a certain level of trust with people where they know how you will behave in certain situations. They ultimately know where your loyalties lie. And so I think I've been fortunate, actually, because even within the mainstream music industry and the mainstream journalism and even mainstream activism in England, I've never been fully welcome. There's been kind of relative acceptance and tolerance in different ways, but in all of those spheres, I've kind of been a little bit of an outlier. So really combining the three has been an interesting journey.
Okay, thank you. Recently we had riots in the UK. For Belgian people, can you explain a little bit what happened and how come these things could happen?
So what you have in England is, previous to the financial crash of 2018, the UK had a higher per capita GDP than the United States, than Germany, than France. However, now it has a per capita GDP which is 50% that of the United States. Real wages have not increased since 2008. There's a large level of disenchantment which has come from the neoliberal project. There's an understood disempowerment that has taken place. The railways, for instance, are largely owned by not only foreign companies but foreign state companies, even companies based in tax havens, and that has really played out across the totality of what were previously state functions prior to James Callaghan and Margaret Thatcher. So there is it's understood that people have lost agency to some extent, but unfortunately there's been a major campaign over these decades to place the blame for these manifestations on the most vulnerable in society, be they people who are surviving state support, be they people who are newcomers to the country, who are refugees escaping wars. But then all of that has come together really in a perfect storm with the war on terror demonization. You're talking about millions of headlines across these 20 years stripping Muslims specifically of their humanity in order to justify the industrial scale killing which has taken place across the wars in Iraq, in Afghanistan, and now also particularly the issue of Palestine. In order for the maintenance of this status quo, which is industrial killing of large groups of people, you have to have those people stripped of their humanity on a daily basis. And then, of course, Tommy Robinson specifically is someone who historically has been funded by key Israeli state assets like Robert Shillman, who was on the board of directors of the Friends of the IDF, and the Middle East Forum, which is run by former Israeli foreign ministry and defense ministry employees. So he's been built up over these years, and now with Elon Musk and X, there's basically been a bit to amplify his ideas and sort of generalize this point of view, which is the manufacturing of an internal other that can play of the society, but also ultimately you can take the crimes of the political class and basically blame their effects on the most vulnerable in the society.
Okay. Media, it's sometimes stated that working class people are writing, and so it's a problem of lower class people and not. How do you see that?
I mean, if you were to really get down to the nitty-gritty of the exact percentage of the population that were involved in the riots, it actually Robinson, for example, has been funded handsomely by specific actors who are involved in the many, many years. And I think it would be a very fortunate generalization to say the working class were rioting, because it was a very small number of people who, I believe, there would have been payment that could exchange hands in some way. You've got to think, if you want to push back against a movement that sees the struggle of striking railway workers, striking teachers, striking healthcare workers, and bonds to the Palestinian cause, if you want to push back against that becoming a normal in society, one of the ways to do it is something like this divide and rule strategy, which has worked previously well. And also, you also have to remember, who would it be expected to be cannon fodder for the war on terror? Who would it be that would be expected to go out, join the British Army, and get involved in the war? Forget that the British Army was as a foreign national within British society. Some of those riots would have been people that may have even been involved in the British military adventures in the war on terror. So, I think that would be quite a crude, sweeping comment.
Yeah. Okay. One last question on Palestine.
Yeah.
You're very active, and in the media, the coverage is not really what the message you want to send out. What do you think is the most important thing to communicate now to the people in Europe, and what they can do to people in Uganda?
I think they need to focus on the ways in which the states that they are part of are infrastructurally involved in what Israel does. And there's many organizations in Belgium that are involved even in terms of stopping the settlements, even in terms of military to military relationships, even in terms of intelligence bonds between Israel and the state here. But what we focused on in Britain, because my understanding is it was the weakest link in the chain, is the arms industry. Because what you have is peppered across the country sites for Israel's largest arms company, Elbit Systems. Now, we at Palestine Action have been able to, in the last 4 years of activity, permanently shut down 3 sites of Elbit Systems in the country. First, the head office in London was permanently shut down and vacated thanks to the direct action of Palestine Action. In addition to that, we were able to force the selling of Israel's largest arms. We were able to force Israel's largest arms company, Elbit Systems, to sell subsidiary for anti-technologies at a loss in Oldham, and also Elite KL in Tamworth. In addition to that, Palestine Action has been able to force the British Ministry of Defence to cancel £280 million worth of contracts with Elbit Systems. We've been able to force numerous companies, including their IO associates, the number 1 recruiter for Elbit Systems in Britain, to cut ties with the company, because Israel on a daily basis is breaking an encyclopedia of international law. Now, that is the biggest recruiting factor for Palestine Action. People see that and they do not see their government responding in kind. So actually recently the British government cancelled or blocked 30 arms export licenses to Israel. And that's a vindication of what we've been saying. Britain is a signatory to the Arms Trade Treaty, meaning that before any arms export should be made, there needs to be careful analysis about the likelihood of those exports to be used in violations of international humanitarian law. You have the proof daily in front of you that Israel is doing. So therefore, we are winning. But at the point when you're winning is also the point of the greatest repression. So we have 16 people linked to Palestine Action cases currently in jail in Britain. And we're aware that this is the escalation that will take place when you are closest to victory. You know, we salute and support those people. We believe they are the best of us. And history will ultimately absolve any of us who are repressed during this time. And actually quite the opposite. I believe that in times of genocide, the inaction is a mark of shame. Action and repression for that action is a mark of honor.
Thank you for this interview.
No worries.
Thank you for your time and your
Thank you.
all you do for Palestine and for the justice.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.